Hello, and a very special welcome to Futu TV Free TV special screening. Today, we'll welcome the producers, watch the movie together, and then have a fireside conversation. Of course, you can always watch Futi.tv on your television via Roku TV, Fire TV, and Apple TV. You can also watch A Matter of Choice and the rest of the 11 Tomorrow's films via the Futi app on the Apple App Store and on Google Play. Always free. So let's get started. It's time for us to welcome our guest today. And of course, we're going to be meeting Glenn Bruce, A Matter of Choice's director, Dr. David Wright, the film producer, and the star, Jennifer Wallace. So welcome. How are you guys doing today?
Morning,
Morning, we're doing great,
Morning.
thanks.
It's morning in Australia.
Yeah, 10 a.m.
Yes.
here.
It's another beautiful day. How are you
Another
doing?
beautiful day in Australia. Well, I'm calling you from tomorrow. You are talking to me from the future, actually.
Already?
You're talking from tomorrow. So how wonderful to see you guys. Just introducing, we have Dr. David Wright here, film producer, and then we have don't have Jen yet, but she will be joining us pretty soon. But we have Glenn Bruce, the film director. How wonderful. So it's exciting to see you guys. This is really the big moment. And just wanted to say a few words before we actually get started. Of course, let's start at the very beginning. So, David from Texto Productions, the film producer, you have been teaching futures for quite some time, right? And this is a collection of films about the future. So, what inspired you to put together the 11 Tomorrows?
Well, it's a long story, but it's an extension of what I did at university, mainly in Japan, but also partly in Australia. So I taught future studies, but one of my niches was to actually have students use futures tools and methodologies and theories to come up with stories about the future, and then I would get them into teams, and they would produce a story. So look, over the last, 12, 13 years, I've produced probably more than 1,000 short films across 2 universities in Japan and 2 universities in Brisbane, Australia. So it was kind of an extension of that. I wanted to take it out of academia and into the more commercial world and just see what was possible. So I teamed up with a club in Brisbane called Brisbane Movie Makers. And we had a fabulous team of 20 or 30 people, and including Glenn and Jen, who's just joined us. Morning, Jen.
Hello.
We got Jen and Glenn. My name doesn't rhyme. Okay. So 11 Tomorrows was an extension of what I did in academia. And as you've already mentioned, we have 11 stories, 11 writers, 11 directors, and their perspectives on the future of this town called Brisbane, which in 2032 is apparently going to be an Olympic city, which is quite exciting. So it's a town which is a stage of transition. And I think there are big changes happening in Brisbane, and especially me coming from Japan back to Brisbane after being away for 10, 11 years, I could notice those changes quite pronounced. So, Jen, maybe we can introduce Jen.
Oh, hi, my name's Wallace, and I live in Brisbane, and I'm the president of Brisbane Movie Makers.
So, Glenn, how did you meet those folks?
Met both these guys through Brisbane Movie Makers, and it's basically a club where movie makers get together to make movies together, basically, simply, and to learn, educate about filmmaking, and assist each other with movie projects.
How wonderful. Now that I have all 3 of you, I think we can get to the main course, of course. It's time for us, of course, to watch the movies together. So next, we're going to watch the movie. It's the screening of A Matter of Choice. And then we are going to get back together and continue our fireside conversation. So thanks for joining us. I'll keep a moment of silence and then get started. All righty. So the 11 Tomorrows is a Textube production. Dr. David L. Wright, producer, and A Matter of Choice is directed by Glenn Bruce, starring Jennifer Wallace.
1875, first steam engine rolled into Roma Street Station. 1979, air-conditioned electric trains arrive in Brisbane. 2024, Brisbane Metro Stage 1 commences. Love you, Brisbane.
The letters in the word Brisbane mean brilliantly radiant in sunlight, beautiful and never-ending.
Brisbane's doing some great things. Cycleways, for instance, they make cycling so much safer. But we've got to be careful we don't see electric cars as the solution. Wouldn't it be awesome if Brisbane could be a world leader in environmental architecture?
Brisbane's future is analogue. Residents communicate via carrier pigeons, navigate the city with paper maps the size of bedsheets, and settle disputes with epic rock and paper scissor battles. It's a farce, but it's a delight.
Greening urban areas. Things like vertical farms and vertical plant walls. Things like that help contribute to a greener and cleaner environment. Wouldn't it be great if countries around the world looked to Brisbane as a shining light in this area?
Brisbane, where kangaroos take the morning commute, coffee shops brew up a koala latte art, and sunscreen is the new currency under the Aussie sun.
Where do I see the future of Brisbane? I see Brisbane staying exactly the same.
With sunshine, we're Brisbane, from the mountains down to the sea. Yes, she's the city we love. She's the best in the world, and there's no place I'd rather be. I love Brisbane!
So, have you given any thought to what you're looking for in a funeral? I understand this was very sudden.
Sudden. This time yesterday we were inspecting a house.
Oh, yes. Oh dear, I'm so sorry. How awful.
There was this ridiculous real estate market. It killed him.
What? What do you mean, Mum?
It was a heart attack. He collapsed in the backyard. Ellie didn't find him for 20 minutes.
But what does a heart attack have to do with real estate?
It was despair. It was the sixth place we'd put an offer on in the past month. Gray really wanted this one. When he found out we'd been outbid by a Sydney buyer again, he went all dark. I couldn't talk him out of it. He went outside and
Well, our family are Catholic, Samantha, so we won't be doing a cremation. It need to be a burial.
Whoa, 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 Anne. Now, hold on. You know Gray wasn't a churchgoer. That's a bit of an assumption, Anne.
Oh, look, darling, it's what the Kavanagh family does. My Michael, Mum and Dad, his parents, they're all buried at Toowong Cemetery. I've got a prepaid booking there myself.
Anne, this is not about you. It's about his new family, his wife and his kids.
Mum, this is Grandma. We're all upset about that.
Oh, okay, I guess. And no, we haven't discussed funeral arrangements. We do have a will, but I guess we never really wanted to talk about this side of life.
You know, organising a funeral on top of dealing with a sudden passing can be really challenging. If I could make a suggestion, we don't have to do this today. What if I just lay out the different options and give you some materials? You can ask questions. I'll be totally upfront about the total cost involved. And then you sleep on it and we decide tomorrow?
Okay, Samantha, let's have it.
Well, of course there are two main options, burial or cremation, but within those options are several different choices.
Well, we've had a chat about it and I've done a lot of thinking and, well, we decided to go with the premium cremation service.
Yeah, we think that's what Dad would have wanted. And Grandma, we really appreciate you coming across on this.
Yeah, well, I mean, you guys mean everything to me.
You do too, Anne. You know, if there's one thing I know for sure, Gray wasn't a believer. He wouldn't want a church, no way. But there's no reason we can't make it a bit special.
Yes, and Martin's idea to drop his ashes at his favourite fishing spot in Redcliffe. That sounds lovely.
Yeah, that sounds nice. Let's do that.
Well, okay then. If Ellie can sign down here, then we will be all set for March 3rd.
Bro, this is Samantha. She's the funeral director.
What? Already?
Steve, these have to be done quickly. I was just about to sign it.
Sign? Sign what?
Look, let's sit down, we'll tell you all about it.
Well, we want to have a lovely outdoor ceremony, followed by a cremation.
A cremation?
And then...
No, that won't do.
But Steve, why?
Dad gave me this 2 years ago, after his heart scare.
What? But I'm his wife, why?
It's okay, Mum. He said you're reluctant to talk about death, but that he did have a special request.
What kind of request?
Yeah. Well, cremation is out of the question.
Oh?
And a traditional burial.
Well, what else is there?
Green disposal. Dad wanting his body disposed of in an environmentally friendly way.
Enviro? Is there even such a thing?
Yeah, I've never ever heard the likes of it.
Are you seriously shitting me? What? Take your corpse to a recycling facility and get $10 for the corpse?
Actually, it is a thing. Well, not the $10 part.
What is it? You never told us about this.
For cremation, they say it is not environmentally friendly due to the incredible temperatures that is required. We have been aware of the green alternatives becoming available, but so far we have never been asked for it.
So what is a green alternative?
Well, according to Dad's letter, a green funeral involves no embalming, no cremation. Bodies are buried in biodegradable coffins and shallow graves in environmentally friendly cemeteries with a modest headstone.
I'm not having my husband buried in a shallow grave in a cardboard box.
Yeah, that's just disgusting.
I am not having my son buried like that. No way. No pauper's grave for my son.
Guys, this is what Dad wanted. At least hear what he has to say.
Oh, yes, of course.
To my dear family, as you know, I'm a bit of a greenie. Make no apologies for that. I take my 10-cent containers to the recycling centre, compost my food waste, avoid plastic as much as I can. As such, I would like to make a special request. It makes sense to me that when I die, that my body is disposed of in an environmentally friendly way. I researched it and included details of my preferred options below. It says more, but I'll just hand it around.
No. Why didn't he give it to me? Why did he give it to you? Surely being a wife means something.
Shallow grave. That's not what Kavanaghs are used to.
Yeah, shallow grave. Wouldn't that be vulnerable to animals? What if Dad is dug up?
Oh, guys.
What? Wait a minute. Why did he give this to you? It's because I'm gay, isn't it? Dad never got over me coming out.
Oh, Marty.
I can't bear the thought of my son being buried.
Let's just stop. Why didn't he give it to me? Why didn't he give it to me? Guys, this is what Dad wanted. If he was a Buddhist or a Muslim, wouldn't we be doing what he says? Following those cultural behaviours? Dad wants to return his body to nature.
Wow, Steve. Well, since you put it like that.
So, what, that's it, is it then? I am not going to watch my son buried in a pauper's grave, and that is final. I will not be attending this funeral.
Grandma! Wait. Just at least read it when you get home.
Well, that went great.
Yeah, we apologise for our family's behaviour, Samantha.
Look, if it helps, we'd be happy to arrange a green alternative funeral for you guys, if that is what you guys want. As a family, you have to decide if you want that or the first option.
And what if we combined it with our original idea?
I think that's a great idea, Marty. Is that possible, Samantha?
Of course, Ellie. Of course it is.
When we're born, we're given a shiny, new vehicle. It looks soft and delicate and smells brand new. With this vehicle, we can touch, taste, smell, see, hear, and experience the world around us. Unlike a car, for several years, our vehicle actually improves. Becoming stronger, larger, faster. But just like any vehicle, time starts to take its toll. Our parts begin to wear out. Finally, it's time to leave. Our body, it's just a vehicle. When we die, it's no longer required.
Hello, Steve. I'm sorry, love. Let's do the grey thing. Let's do the green thing. It's what Grey wanted.
Sure, Grandma. Can we pick you up on the way?
To that.
Wasn't that beautiful?
Yes, it was.
That was
Yeah.
beautiful. And yes, we do watch through the credits. There was a comment, a question here. Yes, we watched the movie beginning to end. Who knows? with the film directors, they might leave you some kind of a pearl or some kind of a surprise in there. So yes, we look through beginning to end. So how wonderful to have all three of you here today. So I will kind of start from the very beginning, and I kind of want to look at the perspective of the entire collection, right? The 11 Tomorrows. And I can't help but think about Maywar, the river. So it's kind of an interesting comparison or analogy to the river of life. So there are many phases of our life, and there are several interpretations of the future of Brisbane. And there's some very tender moments like blueberries. And then there is your guys' film, A Matter of Choice, dealing with such a critical moment, so moment of death, right? And of course, what happens thereafter in the family and the conflicts, etc. So I guess a good point for the start of our fireside chat here is precisely the topics of the film, right? So why did you guys decide to talk about, the immediate moment right after someone's passing?
Well, I wrote the script, and I just think that death is a big issue for all of us, and it's one that we're reluctant to deal with. And I thought that it's a topic that we need to look at more to help us deal with it. Because these things do happen, and in at times when we're not expecting them. And so I wanted to include family issues around that. The personalities within our families are often quite diverse. And but I thought, let's look at death.
Actually, comment and question directly from Facebook. So thank you, Deb. So was there a motivation or a specific event or idea that sparked the inspiration?
Well, I was actually inspired by, I've been following a lot of future-based articles, and I've seen a lot of articles about alternative methods of dealing with the deceased. And I thought that could make a good storyline. One that prompts some thinking that, hey, there maybe are alternatives. Also, I'm a bit of a greenie, so I am interested in more environmentally friendly ways of dealing with our society and different aspects of that.
Okay, well, David, how do you feel about green burial?
Well, yeah, I mean, when I was in Japan, and I was there for a long time, 20 years, I actually did a research project on the future of how to deal with the passing of our loved ones. And there's quite a movement in Japan too, in what to do with people who have passed away. So look, I think that overall it's probably a good idea. And I think that, as Glenn kind of pointed out, we need to sort of start thinking more seriously about how we deal with that. I know that my mum passed away quite recently, and my dad too, and they both had different kinds of ways to dispose of their bodies, and these are all quite emotional issues. So all in all, I think that's an issue that we need to think about. And there was a TV series on in Australia last year about how people deal with the passing in different countries, and there was one in Indonesia where they actually keep the deceased in a separate bedroom and let them naturally mummify over time. So they just keep them there basically forever, for generations. And they even go in and sort of kind of feed them and redress them and talk to them and keep the deceased body as part of the ongoing ancestry of the family. So there are so many different ways of dealing with the passing that we kind of need to be a little bit more aware of, I think. I think that's kind of the big message.
What an interesting conversation. So other cultures as well, we mentioned the Indonesians. So the Zoroastrians actually fed the bodies to the birds.
Yeah.
And the first thing the conquistadors did in South America was to burn the mummies. So they burned through. Very few mummies survived from the Incas because the first thing they wanted to is to destroy the connection people had to the land and to ancestors. So it was one additional crime you can put on the list. So let's turn to the star of the movie. So Jen, what is your opinion of green burial? Is this something you would pick for a loved one?
I think in principle it's a great thing, and it will probably become more common. Unfortunately, I'm just dealing with the sudden death of my son, who was killed in a homicide, and
I'm sorry to hear.
under those conditions, I had him cremated because I didn't want the body to be lying around in mortuary fridges and things for any longer than possible, and I wasn't quite ready to deal with the full-on funeral. So my personal choice was to do the cremation and then to return his ashes to a beautiful place in nature at a time when we were all ready to celebrate his life.
Yeah, so you guys picked the theme of family relationships at a very, very critical moment. So the passing of someone, right? Such as, time of death, okay? Why did you select this topic for the story?
Well, I recently lost a brother a couple of years ago, and it really amazed me the diversity of people's characters within our own family. And even though we can come from the same family, our personalities are so different, our beliefs are different. And when it comes to a critical time like talking about funerals and things like that, it can get a bit interesting, let's say, to be diplomatic.
Interesting.
Yeah, actually,
that sort of gives you an opportunity for opening up drama in a story.
So there are several questions here related to a multi-generational situation there, decision making within 3 generations, right? So are Australian families as complicated as the one we have here in the US? What's your take on that?
We couldn't hear the question, Ron. Sorry. Could you repeat that question?
Sure. So you had a situation where a multi-generational discussion. You have grandma, the parent, the siblings, right? So, so the question is: are the Australian families as complicated as they are here in the US? So you have everybody has an opinion, and it's a consensus, or the surviving partner decides. How is the process?
Well, in my situation, look, it's been different to every family. But in my situation, it was the surviving partner had the final say on everything. But there was a lot of democratic sort of discussion around it first, but then the surviving partner led the way in terms of decisions.
Yeah, well, that's interesting because one of the questions people had here was that several generations making a decision, and usually in the West we tend to make a decision. So one person makes the decision, the family is heard or consulted, but thank you, but no thanks. One person makes the decision. So the decision making around what to do really. So we did have 2 figures, right? So we had the mother, right, and you had the wife, right? Of course you had the kids, but they're two powerful figures in there in terms of relationship, trying to make a decision. And first they agreed and disagreed, then they finally had to get the grandma to come around and say, well, okay, we're gonna do this. So that's an interesting perspective. So there was another topic introduced here, quite interesting. So on a lighter note, so what's going on in the real estate prices, right? Is this such a really big issue in Brisbane or for Australia?
Absolutely. We've seen significant increases in real estate prices, and to the point where multiple parties are outbidding each other, and consequently the prices go up and up and up and up. And it's getting to the stage where you think, how can people even afford these mortgages? And then we've had, on top of that, to make it worse, the Reserve Bank has increased interest rates. So we've currently got the highest repayments we've had on houses ever. And to complicate that, if you can't afford to buy a house and you have to rent, rents have gone up significantly over the last 3-4 years. So it is a cause of major stress amongst Australian families.
Okay, so is this an issue? So in the movie, you have a specific line. You said a Sydney buyer outbid me, right? Is this internal migration, or you think it's external migration? People just moving into Australia?
I think there's a bit of both, but there's probably more internal migration. Sydney and Melbourne property markets are much higher than Brisbane, and so people can sell in Sydney and have a lot more money left over, and then puts them in a more powerful bidding position when they come to Brisbane. Consequently, the Brisbane people are bidded out.
It's interesting that you say that. So I'm in Arizona, so I moved to California. So when I went there, I had a 4,250 square feet house, a very large house in Arizona. I sold it. When I got there, I talked to the realtor, and she said, "Honey, you can only afford the trailer." I said, "The trailer?" She said, "Yes, a trailer in the trailer park." Because I moved too close to San Francisco, so it was a struggle. It took us, a couple of years to get to it. It was I don't know how to describe it. It was a tiny place, but on the way back, so when we sold our house, it was a bidding war. So I had a bidding war trying to get in, and I had a bidding war moving out. But I felt bad. So one of my friends, so he had the smallest house. He lived in the smallest town, Los Gatos, in the San Francisco Bay Area, and he had the smallest house in the smallest town, and he sold for almost $2 million. And he told me, I felt bad because the couple, I mean, the mortgage was like $17,500, and there was no separation, no split between the kitchen. There was no living room. It was just a small cubicle. He said, I feel bad for them. I mean, both are working, but I don't know how they're going to pay for this. I'm glad I'm taking my money and living. But this is I'm glad you guys kind of touch in different social problems. So quote the Sydney buyer. We have here, so the California buyer who goes or comes here or goes elsewhere and outbids everybody else. So what happens to young families? What happens to, couples and people who are just getting a start in life? So I'm glad you kind of touched the several social issues in there. Now, a different question here. So, how did you guys feel immersing yourselves as actors in the story? What was the difference?
Well, I guess I was the only actor, so I suppose that's my question. Look, I'm an empath, and I very much identified with Glenn's grief over the loss of his brother, and I found the whole flashback sequence very moving. And so I guess when I was acting the role, it wasn't crocodile tears as such. I was genuinely moved and in empathy with Glenn and his loss.
Yeah, so that's an interesting point, right? So most people fake and other people really act, right? Now, Jen, was there a special moment in the film that you liked the most, or what was your favorite scene?
Look, the whole movie was it was a privilege for me to be able to be involved in it. And the whole movie was just a tremendous journey. I mean, I really loved, I loved the boys. I loved the different characters, and there were a few very funny one-liners. I liked how they were so different, and how their responses to everything was so different. I did enjoy riding around in the limousine for half a day drinking champagne. That was definitely.
Was that real champagne? Okay.
That was, yes.
You have a good producer, I guess. Okay.
So that was definitely a perk of the job.
Okay. Facebook followers wants to hear about the gossip. Okay, let's elaborate. Okay. Putting such a production together requires a lot of people to work together. So under the constraint of time and budget, it's a very stressful situation. So what did you guys do from the production and direction perspective? Of course, Jen, you are also acting, right? To keep the movie flowing without interruption.
Look, we had a great cast and crew, but we weren't without dramas, as most films go.
Facebook wants to know about the dramas. Those are the questions.
Yeah. So I'll give you. Would you like me to speak to that?
Go.
I'll give you a bit of meat here.
So yes, we turned up, and one of our actors essentially dropped out. Was it the day before?
Yeah.
And
Oh, wow.
that was a bit of a stress. So maybe I'll let you guess. So we had one actor who was recruited the day before, given the lines, and said, "You're on." So maybe you can guess which one.
No.
Maybe not.
Maybe not.
That's good. So, any other gossip? So, anything that well, actually, let's talk about the positive aspects of this, the relationship. People usually ask about the gossip. So, the people working together. What did you guys do to get the film to move so smoothly? Do you guys have that powwow, or you got together and this is how we're going to work together? What kind of best methods you use, or what was the best practice there?
Well, we had a dialogue reading when I was auditioning, so that was gave the actors a feel for the story and a feel for the dialogue. We had a run through on set as well before shooting, and the cast members were really cooperative and they were into the story, and that helps because they really liked the characters they're playing and the challenge of presenting those roles.
So
also, it was incredibly well organized. It was incredibly well organized. The crew did a wonderful job in scheduling the film and organizing each take and directing the actors and directing the set. It was really, really well done, well organized.
Okay, let's talk about the challenges. Was there a specific scene that proved to be most challenging from a technical perspective?
Yes.
Okay, let's hear that.
Well, there was one scene there's one scene around the table where one of the actors didn't quite like the way that he was supposed to act, and he sort of said, "Look, what if we do it this way?" So I let him have a go. So we ended up with 2 or 3 different ways of producing that movement in the action, and so it was just a little bit challenging, just having that when you're ready to shoot and they want to suggest a different way of doing it. The other thing that happened was with the limousine scene, we were doing with a drone shot. As I just finished it, somehow I managed to end up putting the drone in a tree. Fortunately, it didn't stay there. It did fall down, but yeah, a little bit embarrassing for me.
Yeah, the embarrassing moments. So, was there any? Of course, this is a pretty dramatic situation. Was there any moment in there that you guys couldn't keep, or you guys started laughing, or you? What were the bloops or the things you could say? Well, I wish I could have done differently, or.
Did we have any bloopers? I'm not sure we did.
Okay.
No, it was actually like we often do in other movies. Sometimes have bloopers, but this one went pretty smoothly.
Okay, so I could say it sounds like it's smooth sailing in there, but it takes quite a lot of effort. So how many hours a day did you guys work, and how long did it take to complete the film actually?
So it was a 1.5 day shoot. So we did one day in the house scenes, and we did a few hours in the limousine. That was it.
Wow, you guys are good.
So we're just talking about a matter of choice here, okay? Just that short film.
Yes, a matter of choice, yes.
11 Tomorrows was much bigger, of course.
I must say, it took me a long time to learn the lines. There was a lot of dialogue there for me, so it took me a couple of weeks to really learn the lines.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about the 11 Tomorrows. So how long did it take to put together the 11 Tomorrows? Because now you have 13 stories, right?
Yeah, well, from conception through to the actual screening at the cinema was about 20 months, I think. So It was supposed to be 12 months. We were going to have a launch on March 1 of 2023 because March 1, as you know, Ron, is World Future Day. So that was the plan, but the plan didn't work out mainly because of COVID. We had that was another drama during your film too. We had a couple of shutdowns because of COVID. We had to sort of rebook the limousine and things like that. So there were some more dramas there. But 20 months. It was supposed to be 12 months, and yeah, we had people dropping out. We had one person who went back to their country from a divorce, and so on. So as you can imagine, with 11 stories, 11 production teams, towards the end of COVID, you can imagine all the dramas that happened just around COVID. So it was 20 months. Which actually, in terms of filming, is actually not too bad because it was 2 hours and 8 minutes long. That's a lot of film. That's a lot of stories, a lot of. So, 20 months actually for a film of that scale is probably not too bad. It could have been a lot worse.
So, a question for Glenn and Jen. So, when I look at other movies, right? It's like The Clown. They had the making of. Did you guys think about doing a making of, A Matter of Choice?
No, we didn't really think of doing a making of. Well, my focus was all totally on doing the production, so I didn't think of that.
Well, there were some photographs, especially in the limousine after drinking champagne for the afternoon, but I'm not sure that they would have been suitable for public release.
Okay, we'll censor those for the moment being. Okay. Several other questions coming from Facebook. So you guys created several films. What advice would you give to an aspiring filmmaker who's just starting out?
Well, I guess being the president of a movie making club, I'll put an answer to that. I think having community, I think giving things a go. Glenn was really great in our club for just doing like pop-up shoots where people would come and just try and do something at whatever level they were, and then get together, swapping equipment, and really just having a go. Just shoot and write stories and get together with people and create something, and don't worry too much about perfection while you're learning.
My advice would be, look, a lot of people go out and do film courses, like degrees in filmmaking, and you've got to get out into the filmmaking community somehow, and you've got to make connections. You've got to work hard. There's besides us, there's Facebook filmmaking groups where people are literally looking for people to partner with. Filmmaking is a team business. You can't just, well, it's difficult to make films by yourself. You can do it by yourself, but it's difficult. So if you don't keep making films, you'll lose what you've learned. So you've done the learning, now go out and find a team to work with.
Yeah, David, I wanted to hear your perspective as well. So, and I think when you told me, well, we know those wonderful people at the Brisbane Movie Makers. So I think this, and you mentioned it's basically a community project, right? You can't do it alone, and I think it's important that we highlight the role of the Brisbane Movie Makers in the creation of the movie as well.
Yeah, well, from my perspective, I had a meeting with a gentleman yesterday who has a really good story idea. It's a great concept. But just doesn't know what to do with it next. So we talked about that, and so he's got a story. It's down on paper, and so my advice to him was really to put, as Glenn has already said, is to put together the team. So, but also to find your own kind of a style. I think it's really important to have your own kind of a style, especially if you want to be like a professional commercial filmmaker who actually makes money from what you do. This is really important. It's a bit like music or a bit like fashion. That there are millions of people out there aspiring to be fashion designers or musicians or whatever, but the ones who kind of make it, if that's the correct word, are the ones that have their own kind of a style. I mean, if you took away the style from Picasso, then he would just be like any other painter. Or as Rembrandt, he always used to add a little bit of brown, a little bit of kind of a brown color to all his paintings. And that gave him that distinctive Rembrandt kind of a look. Frank Zappa used to say, put the eyebrows on. So Frank Zappa had his own kind of a style. I think it's really important to have your own kind of a style. And in filmmaking, if you take someone like David Lynch, He's very much got his own kind of style. So it's kind of a dark plus the humor. So that's something I would say. So you have your message, have your own kind of style, and then as these two have rightly said, put together your own production team, producers, directors, and so on. But it also depends what kind of aspect of the film industry you want to be in, because not everyone wants to be a director or a producer or a writer. Some people might just do the lighting, in which case, just perfect your own skills in terms of lighting. And but if you want to do sound, then okay, you just do the sound. And they're the ones who actually probably have more success in getting work, paid work anyway. It's the writers, directors, and producers. They're the ones that have to tough it out because they're the ones that have to sort of make their mark and actually create some kind of a hit product. But without the hit product, basically you just go from one project to the next and you self-finance. But the ones who actually do the technical skills are the ones who actually get the ongoing regular gigs. So that's kind of my 2 cents worth.
Also, I'd like to say that production assistants, catering people, people who look at continuity and just general support crew is incredibly valuable, and it's great fun to get involved with a crew in those roles while you're developing other roles, and to shadow film crew and things like that until you develop the skills to the level that you can go solo.
Okay, so several kinds of questions coming up here from Facebook as well. So you mentioned getting paid or not getting paid. So what do you think sets independent films apart from mainstream cinema? And how does your film fit into that narrative, the indie films?
Well, our film was basically an unpaid film. When you talk about budget, our budget was almost non-existent, almost nothing. All the actors worked for free, all the crew worked for free. The actors got a small amount of money. So everybody who came together was just passionate about creating together, and whether your motivation is to create a screen reel, that's what our actors really wanted out of this. But we're still going through the exact same processes as a commercial film. It's still directed the same. It's still got the same crew type scenario. So it'd be nice to be paid for that sort of thing, but
it's a work of art. It really is. Right?
It is. People come from different perspectives. Like my perspective, I'm actually a school teacher. That's my career. So filmmaking is my hobby and my passion. So that's what I do when I'm not at school. So.
Cool. So what kind of impact or message do you hope your film leaves on its audience, and why is that the message important, or the most important message to you?
Well, my message would be just to open your mind to other alternatives. With certain things, especially with culture, culture is a very hard thing to break. And when you're talking about opening up to environmentally friendly ideas, sometimes that's hard. Outside of their frames of reference of what's normal.
And what's your message, Jen?
Look, from the film or as a filmmaker, the main message of the film, you think?
Yeah, so the question was, what impact or message do you hope your film leaves on its audience? What would you
look, I think sometimes, number one, I think it's really important for people, even young people, to leave a will, because without a will, things are very difficult, as I'm discovering with my son. The second thing is for family members for people to make their wishes known, even from the point of view of being an organ donor or things like that, and to discuss with our families, even when we're young, like what our wishes are, so that in the time of grief and difficulty of creating a funeral, that people have talked about it. I mean, death is a difficult topic to discuss, and a lot of people think you need to leave it until old age. But I think if people can have those conversations, maybe a film like this can inspire people maybe to talk about those issues, so that things are a little more understood at the time of that very difficult loss.
And David, what is your message?
Okay, so my message is more about the whole 11 films as a collective work, I think. And I think the most important thing is that when we talk about the future, most of it is top down. It comes down from governments, it comes down from billionaires who apparently know everything about everything. So the whole point with 11 Tomorrow is the fact that it was a very low budget film, but it was made by people with a strong passion and a message to say about some aspect of the future. And so this is like a bottom-up way of approaching the future, which I think is really important. And from that perspective, Glenn, as the writer-director, has a message. We didn't have much money to make the message a reality, but we did, and I think it came off really well. And that would apply to the other 10 films as well, that people had messages, they had something to say about the future. We didn't have a lot of money, but we said our message. And I think that can spark off like a whole sort of domino effect of inspiration for other people to also get their messages and their ideas and their concepts about the future, as opposed to being told from governments and city councils about what the future should be. So that's my kind of overarching.
Of course, I'm a suspect because I watched all of the 11 Tomorrows, but I kind of felt it's something unique about your work, is that this is an I story, right? It's a personal perspective, and I felt this is beautiful because we don't put so much effort. It's very rare to find the I story, right? My view, where you took someone or actually a collection of different people, and what's your view, and here's the camera. And here are the professionals, and we're going to put your perspective together. I found that's kind of the most moving. I think that's what sets apart the 11 Tomorrows from the rest is perspective, good use of perspective.
Yeah, I think that's a really good comment, and that's kind of how I sort of conceived the idea from the beginning. In fact, at the very beginning of this project, I was going to make all 11 stories by myself, and then I just came across the Brisbane Movie Makers by chance, through Facebook. Now called Meta, of course. But when I found them, I went along, and this is a true story. But the first night I went, they were showing 3 or 4 films made by members. Oh, in fact, one of them was yours, Glenn.
Oh, was it?
It was about water.
Oh,
There was a documentary about water. There was another one about the zodiac, which is kind of a futuristic kind of a story too. Divination and so on. It's not exactly scientific or mathematical features, but it doesn't need to be. So I looked at those stories and I thought, wow, here's a group of people already making stories. They're not sort of particularly aware of it, but they're actually stories about some kind of a futures issue. Why would I try to make 11 stories by myself? Well, I can team up with these people and we can make it a collaboration. That would be much more interesting. Much more interesting, and I think all this more interesting. So, as you pointed out, they're all I stories from 11 different perspectives. And from the beginning, I said, I'm not going to get too involved. I'm going to let them go away. They can make stories. I'm not going to sort of bring any academic stuff to it. And if I don't like the story, too bad. That's not the point.
Excellent. Okay, I guess. So one final question for all of you, right? So, it's a futures film. So I'm going to ask you about your plans for the future. Maybe I will start with you, Jen. So what are you working on?
I'm working on 2 movies at the moment. I'm directing 2 movies. One is, they're both about, I guess they're about death still. One of them is really about breast cancer. The woman who loses her adult son, not thing, but is now. So that was crazy. But it's the dark night of the soul, and she actually gets the will to live through fighting cancer and basically makes a pact with life. And then the other one is a tribute to somebody who didn't make it through cancer, and it's about a ballet dancer who has a relationship with her son as she's dying, and then they have a flashback to her. She dances in the rain with him as her final wish, and then they see the past, her past self dancing in the rain after she's passed away as a sort of apparition. So yeah, they're going to be pretty full on. One of them is a competition winner by the club. It was a script writing competition, so the whole club is involved in that, and we're looking forward to it. The other one was written by the writer of Blueberries.
Oh, that was a very sweet movie. I like that. Very
Yeah.
tender. Yeah. Well, we haven't screened it yet. We will, I promise. And maybe after we're done with the 11 Tomorrows, maybe we can bring the other movies so we can watch them together and have this kind of conversation. So, Glenn, how about you? What's your next project, or what are you working on?
I tend to grab onto issues that I see occurring in society, and the one that I've seen that's really hit me emotionally is the we've had a significant increase in home invasions.
Oh,
now,
wow.
where teenagers are going around in groups of 5 kids. They steal a car. They go around in the car to a home. They invade the home with weapons like knives and machetes. They terrorise the family, steal money and possessions, and then take off. And it's becoming quite a problem. So I wanted to write a story about that. Well, I've written a script already, but yeah, that's going to be my next project.
Yeah, here is the methamphetamine crisis. So drugs causing or leading to, undescribable levels of violence. Although here in the US, we have that anyway. There's a shooting every week. So I'm glad you guys are turning to social topics and themes. So David, is there like a 12 tomorrow, or what are you doing next? Sequel? What is the sequel? Is there a sequel in the works?
Yeah, I've been toying with the idea of taking the 11 Tomorrows concept to other places, but at the moment I'm actually working on something new. It's top secret, but I can tell you. So
Top
just
secret,
don't tell anybody. Okay.
Facebook is watching, so if it's top secret, maybe you should think about what you're saying.
Okay, I'll guard my words carefully. So I'm putting together which is potentially kind of a Netflix kind of series. I'm not thinking Netflix specifically, but it could be like a Netflix series. It's a mini series of 8 different kinds of stories, but they all have strong futures perspective to them. And the first one would be a feature film, and that involves it's around sexuality and robotics and artificial intelligence in the future. I won't say any more than that because I think the idea is pretty good. But in terms of style and genre, it sort of sits in between 4 different kind of referential series and films. So one of those is Black Mirror, which I think is quite well known. Yeah. It's a bit like that, but not exactly like that. It's a bit like Love, Death and Robots, which is a series of animation short films, anything from like 3 minutes up to 15 minutes. I like that series because it's all quite different. The animation styles are all quite different, and they're all from different cultures, and they're really short. Sometimes they're quite long. The other one is called Oat Studios, which is a bizarre series. I don't know does anyone know Oat Studios?
I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, you've heard of it?
Sigourney Weaver.
Sigourney Weaver's in the first one. Yeah, it's a very strange, quite surreal, which I do like. But the other one is the film that just came out recently in Australia called Kinds of Kindness, which is a very, very, it's called an absurdist film, and it's called an absurdist film for good reason. It is quite absurd, but there are 3 stories with all the same actors, all playing different roles. But when you look at the stories, they're actually kind of futuristic stories, which resonate quite strongly with my own kind of stylistic orientation. So my new series is going to be somewhere in between those, but it's going to have a stronger orientation towards Australian, down under, Pacific culture. All the other ones are based around America and England, and that's fine. I've got nothing against those countries. They're great countries, but this is going to have a stronger kind of flavor for down under, including places like Papua New Guinea. I have one really, really interesting story about Papua New Guinea, which involves anything from voodoo right through to futuristic medicine. It's quite a good. It's based on a true story as well too, and even involves the Prime Minister of PNG. So there you go.
Wow, this is
Top
going to be fun.
everyone.
Actually,
Don't tell anybody about this, okay?
I will wait. I will save time for that. But there are kind of comments here. I don't want to start World War III, but people are asking me, since you guys are Aussies, who makes the best barbecue? The question came from Texas, really. So I think it's more of a challenge than a question or comment.
If I move around,
Think of the bar-
look at, here's a barbecue right behind us. Look, can you see the barbecue? There it is.
Okay, it's too
Welcome to
clean. Is it
Australia.
used or not? I've never seen such a clean barbecue before. Is that used or a decoration piece?
That's mine.
Is it used or not?
Oh, you get
Oh, the
used.
school
Just-
teacher. Oh, the school teacher will keep the barbecue or the grill clean. I assume so. Yes. See? Shrimp on the barbie. What is that you guys do on the barbecue?
Shrimp on the barbecue. We have crocodile and kangaroo on our barbecue.
Crocodile, kangaroo. Okay.
Sounds really good. Yeah, come round for dinner one night and we'll have crocodile.
Okay, so you guys claim that. So that was the question. So you guys claim you do the best barbecue. Is that right?
Glenn,
You're making that up.
I think Glenn would definitely get the vote.
No, just beef steaks, chicken breasts. That's where I'd go. Yeah.
See, so we did not start World War III with the question. So I said, "Oh, I'm afraid I shouldn't ask that question," but it went well. It went better than what I thought. Well, we are talking, about food, and we are holding our friends in Australia for quite some time, and we don't want to be the last thing between them and lunch. So it's really time for us to start closing the show today. Again, folks, thank you so very much for being here with David, Glenn, Jennifer, and with me. You can watch A Matter of Choice and the other 11 Tomorrows on Funti.tv, Free TV, available on Roku TV, Fire TV, and on Apple TV, as an app on Apple App Store and on Google Play Store as well. So loved your work as always. Thank you so very much for being here. Love you guys, beautiful work, and thank you so very much for sharing your insights and your stories and the making of. And I hope you guys come back with some more.
Thank you, Romulo.
Thank you.
Thanks to the audience. Watch
Thank
our
you.
films.
And of course, I'm sorry, go ahead.
What were you saying?
I was saying for the Koreans, they do the heart like this.
Oh, really? It's a different kind of heart. Okay.
Yeah, they do.
Oh.
Like across the.
Oh, like this. Oh, so
Yeah.
this.
That's for the
Does it
Koreans.
matter if it's right or left hand, or it doesn't matter? Or I don't know. Hey, live and learn. That's why we do those things, right? So again, thank you so very much. Again, folks, Matter of Choice, live directly from Brisbane, Australia with you. And I'm going to leave you with our institutional message. Thank you.